Hey, how's everybody doing? So, it's been a week since the election, and we've all sort of settled into status quo, back to normal. And I want to take a little bit of time to look at what it was that Idaho chose to go with this last election. So, you kept your guns, Idaho. Yep, you did. You kept your guns. For some reason, you voted yes on Prop 2, which is health care for all your neighbors. And then you voted in Republicans who swore that they'd trash it if it got passed. So I'm still not sure exactly what you meant with that. You decided horse racing was a bad idea. Well, that one went pretty much the way it was expected to go. Yeah, we did get rid of horse racing for a reason. Planning on bringing it back for a reason. Had a lot of jobs. They're promising lots of money for our schools. Apparently, jobs and money for the school wasn't worth investing in. So, aside from voting for your guns, let's take a look at what you did. Okay. Proposition 1, it's a wash in my book. I don't think we really needed it. Yeah, didn't pass. Oh well. I think we can do better with gambling in the future. Proposition 2. Okay. Now this one confuses me. The reason why is because there's this little thing called game theory. You got two different possible ways of going. So you end up with a little 2x2 square, 4 blocks. Now, block 1, you're looking at the situation where if you had voted yes on Prop 2 and you had voted yes for the Democrats, we'd be in pretty good shape with regards to yes 2 because the Democrats were committed to making it work. Okay, now you could have voted no on Prop 2 and voted yes to the Democrats, in which case the Democrats still would have helped make sure that you got health care for your family and friends and neighbors and, those other people who weren't able to afford it. Or you could have voted no on Prop 2 and then voted no, and then voted in the Republicans, in which case everything would have stayed the same. Would have stayed exactly the same. But no, what you did was you voted yes on Prop 2 and you voted yes to the Republicans. So what you did was everything that the Idaho Freedom Foundation told you was going to happen when Proposition 2 passed will pass. Yep, it's going to happen. The absolute worst case scenario you guys could have picked, and you picked it. I mean, seriously, if you're going to vote Republican, you should have just voted no on Prop 2. Everything would have stayed the same. Yes on Prop 2, yes to the Republicans, you screwed it. I don't know, man. I don't know. So let's see, what else did you vote for when you voted for the Republicans? Okay. Right now, the House has a plan for a $500 million prison to be built in Idaho. $500 million. Right now, $500 million is currently what we spend every year on our prisons, on our Department of Corrections. Okay, right now, we're number 13 in the nation. Number 13, got it, in per capita prison population. So, now, Idaho and their Department of Corrections has decided to go ahead and build a $500 million prison, which is going to house approximately 2,400 inmates. Now, with that prison, we moved from number 13 to number 3. We jumped 10 spots in the per capita prison population in the United States simply because he gave the Republicans the go-ahead to keep their own people in prison. Is what it is, I guess. Also, you voted almost unanimously for a bunch of people who refuse to even acknowledge that medical cannabis is a viable option for healthcare moving into the future. Okay, so not only did you vote to keep throwing people into prison You voted to keep throwing them into prison for possession of marijuana. Your grandma, who's been going across the border to Huntington, make sure that she's got the right stuff, got the right edibles to take care of that acre joints. Yeah, you're throwing her in prison, assholes. So, see, what else did you do? Yeah, reproductive rights. You voted no for a woman's choice with regards to reproduction rights. You voted no on education. That's what you did. 35 years in a race to the bottom in education. And you said we weren't far enough behind. Seriously, folks. I mean, how far behind, how stupid do we have to get before you say that, we're too dumb? No. Cutting funding from schools again, because you told the GOP that they've been cutting it for the last 35 years. Go ahead, keep cutting it. You voted yes to prisons, more money on prisons. Yep, you're one of the few, Ginger. It's all right. I understand. I actually did pretty good. I pulled 5.6% of the vote for my district. 300 of those were people who refused to vote for either Democrat or Republican. So I thank you for that. 300 of you that did that. The 405 that voted for the Republican in the other race that decided to vote for me, kudos. The 470 who voted for me instead of the Democrat like they did in the other race, definitely a plus. I mean, really, I came in close to 1,200 votes for my district. It's pretty much a record achievement for third party. But, it really doesn't matter when you keep voting for bad policy. Even had I made a better showing, had I won, the rest of the state, dude, more prisons, worse education, worse healthcare. Yep. Yeah, Ginger. Yeah, the people who knew me, yeah, they voted for me for the most part. Thing is pretty good outreach, everything considered. Doing the Facebook, getting everybody, all the shares out. Everybody in my district that stepped in to say hi and get on my views on what was going on. But, BLM enforced management. You voted to continue sale of public lands to private interests. What was the other issue? Oh, yes, fracking. Yep, it's true. There is no fracking in Idaho. Not that they didn't want there to be fracking. When they came in and they did the exploration, they found out there was nothing there worth fracking for. Now, part of the reason why they know there's nothing there to frack for was Little, he actually leased some land in Eagle to some exploratory fracking. When they drilled down and shook the earth a little bit and realized they weren't going to get any return on their investment, they said, nah, no more fracking. Now, I don't know about you, but the fact that he was even willing to consider exploratory fracking in order to determine whether or not there was land, a potential for it here in the state, and generally indicates which way he's going to go with regards to private land sale, as well as what we're going to be doing with BLM land in the future. And last time I checked, when you bring in a company to do some strip mining, that BLM land isn't suitable for multi-purpose use after that. Now, there's only so much you can do about it. There's actually a few good things you can do about it. Administrative policy, actually getting organizations in, realizing that they need to go through a couple steps with regards to environmental impact studies, a couple other issues like that, with regards to how much input goes into it, what the reparations are, what they're going to have to do to return it to normal once it's all done. The point is we've created a situation now where we have to be more reactive to that rather than proactive, because now the land's going to disappear. It's going to vanish into the hands of private interests. We got a ton of thorium up there, in our mountains. It can be stripped out, turned into little batteries for nuclear powered cars. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. Reason why is because it's nice to have a car with 100-year, never have to fill the tank. Cadillac came out with a great model, the thorium powered Cadillac, but and we got plenty of it up there in the hills. But the problem is once you start going in and mining that, how can we actually trust the companies that are going in and doing that to return everything back to normal? Well, as we all know from the Bunker Hill Mining Company, you can't. At some point, those interests realize, let's go ahead and reap as much profits as we can, disperse the profits, then file bankruptcy, and let the government come in and clean up the mess. Now, the thing is when the government comes in and cleans up the mess, you know who's paying for it, you and me. Some of the other things that you went and did. Jeff Bezos, Amazon. So we get a brand new warehouse over in Nampa, Amazon warehouse, $15 an hour, probably going to employ about 1,000 people. So in the same process, Nampa's gone ahead and opened up some expansion. They've rezoned some areas in order to build some neighborhoods to facilitate the people who are going to be moving into the area in order to work at Jeff Bezos's, Amazon warehouse. Now, the thing is they've gone in and made it very profitable for developers. The reason why is because developers don't have to pay their development costs. They've made arrangements so that they come in, reduced fees, they build up the land, and everybody around them actually gets to carry the bill. They're raising levies in Nampa, charging extra property taxes in order to accommodate these developers who are going to come in and probably build, another 3,000, 4,000 houses, for these Amazon workers. Now, not necessarily averse to growth, but I mean, if you're going to grow, make growth pay for itself. That way it's actually self-limiting. If you set up a situation where you grow without any sort of restriction on what's going on, you basically outgrow your capacity too fast. Rather than growing slowly up to capacity, you grow fast, you exceed your capacity, and then you're stuck in a situation where you got to dial it all back. From a tech perspective, what that means is you just gave people more permission than they actually should have had in order to do what it was they did. And now you got to say, hey, folks, I got to take back some of that great stuff I just gave you. The thing is when you go asking back for the stuff back, they're real reluctant to give it to you. Now, and the thing is, it's not just Nampa that's doing that. Boise's doing it as well. They're continuing to grow and outgrow themselves and their capability quite a bit. So you continue to facilitate growth. One of the other things that I found out about recently that, you guys continue to promote, it's their love of the military. Okay. Now, I'm a veteran myself. And I'm really pissed that you voted in a bunch of anti-cannabis folks, because now the VA in Boise still, for another 2 years, it's going to take 2 years now, rather than having a bunch of pro-cannabis candidates sitting up there in the state house, you have a bunch of anti-cannabis officials there that are going to wait 2 years. They're going to actually make us go through the whole ballot initiative for the legalization of Idaho. That's another 2.5 to 3 years before veterans in Idaho will be able to have access to medical cannabis for PTSD and various other issues. The VA will not be able to issue those scripts for medical cannabis in the state of Idaho for another 3 years. Thanks, assholes. But the other thing is military. So, recently, the United States Air Force has made arrangements with Idaho in order to facilitate overflights. The reason why is because they want to be able to do trial runs, practice runs, as part of war games practice. So these are dry runs. They come in working with F-15s and some of our more advanced aircraft, and they work with ground crews to work on their tactical air control. So what it is various communities around Idaho will become practice runs for not only the U.S. Air Force, but a number of other air forces from around the world that we share contracts with. We'll be having F-15s buzz our cities. Yeah, doing mock runs on civilian targets. Well, okay. Let's be honest. They're not mock runs on civilian targets. Hopefully. Reason why is because we don't bomb civilian targets anymore, right? It's precision targeting. You know, we take down the building that the bad guys are in, and anybody else who's in the building with them. But anyway, that's the dry runs that they're currently in the process of working with here in Boise. Mayor Dave Beater, along with certain other community leaders in Idaho, have taken it upon themselves to pretty much bless off on this and say everybody's okay with F-15s buzzing the city in various towns. I don't know that we're really all okay with that. Regardless, and that's the thing. It's going to be happening. It's going to be happening in the near future. Another one of those things you guys signed off on with this last vote. Anyway, so thought I'd just give you a few thoughts on where I'm at with this election. Idaho, we can do better. We can do a lot better. You know, hopefully, enough of you start paying attention to what's going on. Start looking at our options here in the next few years. You know, we can actually look at options that don't involve the status quo. You know, we can make a reversal on this. We can start getting our children their education. We can start bringing back good jobs to Idaho rather than, you know, warehouse workers for Amazon. And 5 years from now, he'll have automated the entire damn thing and we'll have built up 1,000 jobs, properties for 1,000 people that are going to be out of work by then. You know, we're being reactionary right now. We're not planning. We need to plan. We need to plan where we're going. We need to plan what it is we want to do. We need to plan how we're going to save the Treasure Valley and Idaho as a whole when everything that has been leading up to this point falls apart. You know, right now the stock market is ridiculous. Price to book value is absurd. You know, if they were to dissolve those corporations today, people would get less than 1/10 of what they've invested in the stock market. Now, there's no solvency in the stock market. You know, the forest fires, bad bureaucracy. You know, the bureaucracy is ridiculous. You know, there's only so much we can do with it. BLM needs to be rebooted. Department of Health and Welfare, you know, if it's not dissolved, it needs to be rebooted. You know, several of these executive administrative agencies, you know, have assumed significantly more power than they were ever intended to have. And we need to dial those back. You know, they become forces unto themselves. You know, back when we did the whole War Powers Act back in 2001, and they decided it was okay to arm federal employees and that all federal employees were at that point agents of the United States government entitled to be armed and de facto law enforcement officers. You know, we essentially armed entire organizations of clerks and said you're entitled to shoot to kill. You know, we need to dial back. We need to get rid of the War Powers Act. We need to get rid of the Patriot Act. And it starts local. It starts here in Idaho. So what I want from a number of you, start paying attention to what's going on. I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom. But the thing is if we don't turn around and reverse it, by the time your kids are our age, you know, it will have been irreversible. Because we'll have wasted our opportunity to leave our children a world worth living in. Anyway, those are my thoughts. You guys have a great evening. I'll get around to making this more of a thing, hopefully by this weekend. You guys give me a date when you actually, give me a time. Give me a day of the week. Give me a time when you guys want to sit down and actually listen to me. Give my spiel where we can get a little feedback going back and forth. Yeah, you ask me questions about what I think about what's going on. Yeah. I'll do my best to be honest. No, actually, that's not that hard. You guys have a great evening. Talk to you later. Bye.